running off the tracks a little bit. And red meant there's some risk, there's some real problems that are going on, okay? So that was the nature, that was what he introduced when he came into Ford, was this is how we're going to get our arms around this problem. Let's go ahead and introduce this, and let's see where this takes us. It'll help us kind of identify where the problems are, and so we can go ahead and cover the $17 billion gap, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and hear from Alan exactly how this played out.
Remember I told you that within a couple of days, the forecast was we're going to lose $17 billion. So I started the business plan review. The charts are flowing, 320 charts. We even have them color-coded, red, yellow, green. Any change on the chart is in blue. So there's lots that doesn't change. All you're looking for is what has changed. You want to hear a long explanation about what's going on. What you want is that everybody knows the plan, everybody knows the areas need special attention. So the color, you got the charts going, and it was about 3 or 4 weeks, the data's flowing, and all the charts are green. And I stopped them and I said, guys, we're going to lose $17 billion. Is there anything that's not going well? Eye contact, goes to the floor. Nobody says anything. I remember that culture you asked about. It wasn't okay to bring things up. I mean, it was command and control. You know, people disappeared. So I think that another week went by, they're green, and of course they got me. They got this new leader. What's this leader going to do? And so the next 2 weeks later, Mark Fields, who's the leader of all the America's business, Canada, the United States, and South America, had an edge launch in Oakville, Canada, and they had an actuator issue on the tailgate. So he stopped production because we're going to be best in class. We're not going to deliver one vehicle unless it's done, and it's the best in quality. So he had like 2,000 or 3,000 edges, you know, sitting out on the tundra. Thank God it was cold, so they weren't sinking in. Because when you stop production, I mean, it's a big deal. And so up comes his chart for the launch of this new edge, and it's bright red. And I mean, it got so quiet. You know what they're all thinking. It's over. Mark's gone. Gone. He's out of here. And then what's this new guy going to do? So I started to clap. Now they knew that was a sign. The door was going to open. Someone's going to come in. Mark's out of here. But I could just feel it. And I said, Mark, is there anything that we can do to help you with that? And before Mark could say one word, Benny Fowler, who is the head of quality now worldwide, said, Mark, I think I've seen that issue on a launch that we did 6 months ago. Because, you know, at the car business, you have so much product coming out, and this was so exciting. And then Joe Hendricks, at the time, he's the leader of all Asia Pacific now, was the head of manufacturing. He said, you're going to need some manufacturing engineers, because as soon as you find that problem and fix it, you're going to have to change all those vehicles and get the production going again. I'll have our dynamite talent up in Canada immediately. And then Derek Kuzak, who leads product development worldwide, says, Mark, I've seen that technical issue on such and such 5 years ago or something. I'll get right on that. That exchange took 12 seconds. 12 seconds. We went on to the next chart. Of course, it was green. One of the next chart, it's green. The next week, I think it was still red, Mark's chart. Everything else was green. Next week, I think he changed it to yellow because they found a solution, and now they're implementing it. I think the next week, it turned to green. And boom, all the vehicles started going. And then probably one of the most exciting days of my life, both from a, oh shit, I mean, this is a terrible situation, to, my gosh, we're going to make it, was the following week. And guess what the charts look like? They look like a rainbow. Like a rainbow. And I'm going, oh my goodness. Now the data says, right here, why we're losing $17 billion. Because the data sets you free, right? Data tells you everything. But also now, it was safe enough that you could share how it was. You weren't red. The issue you're working on is red. As a matter of fact, the expectation is that everybody really does know what the situation is, because you can't manage a secret. People can't help if you don't know what the real situation is. And it's safe, and you're not going to get killed. Now, you can imagine the accountability around the table. Are you going to be red on an item, and then you're going to go through the week and come back and say to all your colleagues, I was really busy last week. I didn't have a chance to work on that. I mean, the pressure in a positive way is like fantastic, because everybody there is trying to figure out how to help go forward. So on that one day, it was probably like, oh my gosh, this is really in bad shape. But we all knew that. On the other hand, I knew at that moment that we were going to be able to turn the port around.
That's cool.
Yeah. Let's just talk about it for a minute. What did you notice? What did you see there?
A shift in their environment, from fear to safety.
Yeah, you create a safe place.
Yes.
Which fostered collaboration.
Safety, fear to safety. Collaboration, innovation. What about accountability? Did it increase? Dramatically, right?
Truth telling.
Yeah.
Humility side.
Right. So what was the impetus for that? What caused that? Let's actually kind of go through those elements of choreography. What was it that happened?
Somebody stepped up and took a risk.
Yeah. And how did he react to that risk?
Clap.
Yeah. Now, they didn't know what the clapping meant. There was a lot of worry about what that meant. You know what's interesting? The individual that stepped up and took the risk, Mark Fields, he was the one that, he was the internal guy, the internal favorite to take over that position. He was passed over to bring in this outsider. So there's an added layer to this that's really fascinating. So this Mark Fields character, you could easily see him just sit back and just saying,
Let this fail.
yeah. And yet he's the one. Isn't that interesting? Sometimes in the individuals that have the greatest right to deserve to sit back and let somebody else fail because they were passed over, and to see him actually step up and accept that invitation without completely knowing where it was going from there. So he stepped up. And then what was Alan's response again? He clapped. What happened next? What did you remember what he said? What can we do to help? Now, what do you think that changed in the room? What do you think the message was from that point on?
If you admit that you need help, you'll get it. If you say everything's fine, nothing is fixed.
Yeah.
I appreciate what he said about it. He said, you're not red, your situation is red.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
That's extraordinary, because that distinction changes everything, doesn't it? Suddenly, our own identity isn't tied up in the project, but it's out here. Great point. What else? What other thoughts came out of that? Did you see the inward and outward mindset at play there?
That the leader was looking for other people to help solve the problems. That, there wasn't a mindset like only that leader knows the solution to the problem.
Ah, there was almost, strangely, and maybe it's the wrong word, but there was a comfort with the vulnerability there,
I believe.
of asking for help and understanding. And one of you said he created safety.
I said that.
Okay, he created both time and space for this safety to occur. There was a mindset shift, wasn't there?
Well, in the transition, the leader actually didn't have to do anything. He said that people just automatically took that over because there's already a relationship built. It's just, you're just capitalizing on what's already there and just bringing it out to light where it's able to be used well.
Isn't it interesting, Danny, that once he created this space, people naturally wanted to be helpful. Once they became exposed to and aware of somebody else's problem or objective or difficulty, there was a natural inclination to be helpful. Even in this hardened boardroom of Fortune 500 losing billions of dollars a year, that core human desire to be helpful when they're made aware of issues and things emerges, even in that kind of environment. It's a fascinating transition.
Command and control was taken down.
Yeah. Suddenly they realized we're moving into a different place. Now, it still didn't happen immediately,
I
right?
was going to say, it took, 2 months before it was
Still
all the way.
Took 12 seconds.
Well, even
Well, tell 12 seconds with that individual.
No,
but
And
for
then
the
4
other.
I know.
weeks,
Because you
and
even
then
said
4
weeks
more
after
weeks.
that.
Yeah.
It was 4 before the first guy and then 4 after the first guy.
People are okay with vulnerability if it's the person across the table
Right.
doing it.
But you kind of have to wait and see, is this real? Let's see what happens to that person, right?
Yeah.
And so there's an element from the
For the rest
leadership
of them.
standpoint of staying true to this. This is where we're going and we have to go here. This goes back, if you remember, we talked earlier about this notion of self-deception and living in this fantasy world, in an ulterior, universe. I mean, alternative universe. And what he essentially did was strip that away and said, let's see things as they really are. And once that was kind of exposed and that time and space was created, there was a desire to be helpful, right? And so now look at this. Let's ask ourselves. Now sometimes this is what we chalk up as, well, these are the soft skills, let's make everyone feel good. But what happened to efficiency? Was it increased or decreased? Dramatically. How about productivity? Increased. How about accountability? Increased. How about collaboration? In other words,
Camaraderie.
camaraderie, absolutely.
Well, it became a team instead of a bunch of people doing jobs. So
Yeah, managing these fiefdoms and these insular silos and things, right? Okay. And again, we'll get into this more. Right now we're just trying to paint a picture that there are two ways to approach every problem or challenge, with an inward or with an outward mindset. And oftentimes, we start thinking of this higher level of emotional IQ approach as being more difficult and soft and everything else. What we're seeing here is it's just more productive. Stuff gets done, and we're all winning together, okay? It's a fascinating story. There's a book about the whole, in fact, it's just on CNBC every once in a while runs a little bit of it's a 1 hour show where they have them narrate this whole thing. It's really kind of a fascinating thing they go through. But at the end of the day, it was that fundamental shift that took place. All of the behaviors, all of the expertise, all the skills, all the behaviors were there all along. But once he gave time and space, and they accepted that invitation, and they wandered into this new mindset world, everything changed. Okay? And that's what we're going to be exploring a little bit more as we go along. Okay? So we're not going to spend a lot of time here. We actually do this with organizations. We have a rate your organization and then put a dot. I do want to ask you to put a dot. Just rate where your organization is. By the way, this isn't an indictment on the people in the organization. To the contrary, some of the most effective and efficient organizations will find themselves very much with an inward mindset because they've been so focused on very specific tasks that they haven't taken that breathing moment to really look around. But take a moment, just kind of evaluate where you think you might be as an organization. No organization is 100% outward. No organization is 100% inward. We're all somewhere in between. Are we a group of individuals that are primarily focused on our own job, our own issues, our own objectives? Or are we really alive and cognizant to what's going on around us? And by the way, later on, we'll come back and we'll revisit that. We won't ask for you to publicly disclose it, but you might change the way that you see things as you go along a little bit further. All right, just take just a moment, think about that. You can shield your booklet if you want to, but it's more an indictment of us as individuals, but then it's really not even an indictment because there is the moralistic judgment. It's basically just showing us we've got plenty of room for improvement. Okay? All right, we're going to skip that. This is ultimately what this day is going to be all about. Okay? Moving individuals, teams, and organizations from inward mindset orientations to outward mindset orientations. This is the work of Arbinger. We're going to do it by looking at, you've got your booklets in front of you. There's going to be 7 maps, or 7 frameworks. We've got 4 maps. There's going to be various different tools we're going to introduce you to. These frameworks are meant to substantiate some of the principles that we talk about here so that you can go back to them and remembering all these details. And you've got something applicable that you can carry forward into other situations. The maps is how we'll go about actually applying these frameworks and these things. And so we'll actually be working on some things here as we go through the rest of the day and moving into tomorrow. And the first one I want to turn you to is in the very back of your book. If you can go to the last page in your book, or second to the last page, you'll see what's called a key objective map. This is the first map, and we're going to be working on this throughout the day. Okay? And so the first thing I want you to do with this key objective map, this dividing line, by the way, is kind of a page break over here, so we'll get to that in just a second. But on this page 136 in the key objective map, I want you to think of any kind of a key objective that you are working on. So this is you, okay? Not the team. So here we're asking you now to come back and think of yourself. Something that you're responsible for that actualizes in the next 6 to 12 months. Project, program, something that you are responsible for, that you have a large amount of control over the outcome of it, and it's something that's going to occur in the next 6 to 12 months. It could be the next 3 or 4 months, but just something particular to you. Okay, so go ahead and take a moment and think about that and write that down, because we're going to be working on that over the course of the day. ability, they just end up being like a nice painting on the wall. It's great to look at and reference every once in a while. But the goal is that these things, as lofty as some of these things may appear, they'll have application to our day-to-day lives, and they'll literally help you be more effective in the relationships at work and everything else that you're involved in, okay? So we want to start by getting that written down. All right, next. In that next page over there, so again, this is page 137, you'll see this 3-column area. I want you to list there the people that you'll need to influence or work with in some way to accomplish that objective. So anybody or any group that you'll be interfacing with, that you'll be required to interface with in order to carry out and achieve your objective. Write them there. And the way we want you to do it is to list those that are most critical to the effort closest to the objective and those that are less critical further to the right. That's why you've got 3 columns. Okay? So on the left column are those that you absolutely have to have engaged, or you're going to, or they're going to have some control over it, or they're going to be very important to you being able to achieve the objective. And then slowly move further to the right with those that are a little bit more peripheral, but they're still part of this. Okay? Go ahead and take a moment and write that down. And then this is map number 1. We're about to go into framework number 1. But we'll be coming back to this. Okay, so we'll be adding some layers. I just have this image, thanks to Steve, of an onion in mind. We're going to go reverse. We're going to be building an onion. Is that possible? Well, let's build a parfait, because you can build a parfait.
Yeah.
All right, go back to Shrek, right? All right. All right, we're going to build a parfait. That's right. Now I'm going to have Eddie Murphy's voice in my head. You're welcome. I don't know how he said it. All right. So we're going to go ahead and this is just kind of an example, so you can see how it's being done there. Again, these can be departments, they can be other organizations, they could be peers, they could be other individuals, it might be something outside of work that you're leaning on for counsel and advice that might have some role in the outcome of this particular objective. Okay? All right. Now we're going to move into framework number 1. Okay? So we're going to start building as we go through this map throughout the day, we're going to be adding different layers to this and applying these frameworks that we're now going to be learning and going over. Okay. So framework number 1. I want to introduce you to Chip. Now, Chip, as you can see, is the SWAT sergeant for the Kansas City Police Department. As hardened and tough as they come. Okay. And at this point, I just want you to listen to this experience that Chip is. You're gonna see Chip a couple of other times. Okay, so I'm gonna forewarn you, Chip is not always like this. You're gonna see a different Chip later on as we go through the remainder of the day. So go into this with a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, but let me go ahead and introduce you to Chip here.
I heard about the myth of Chip Hughes.
Yes, I'm a member of Chip's squad. He was our squad leader.
When I first met Chip, probably 6, 7, 8 years ago, I did not like the guy.
I just know him. He was a jerk. I've worked around him before. I want nothing to do with him.
Arrogant, cocky, alpha male.
He was arrogant. He was pompous.
Very self-promoting and things like that.
As a cop, he's not my type of cop.
All right. It's kind of an unfair way to introduce you to somebody. It's like, and there it ends. What do you think of Chip?
I was like Brad.
One and the same, right?
One and the same.
All right. Okay. Let me ask you a question. Let's go through this there. What do you think? Is Chip's behavior the only problem people are having with him?
No.
What's the problem? That. Now, does Chip seem like somebody that's getting his job done?
Yeah, probably. He's probably doing it better than most people because he's got to keep that in order to still be jerk.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. You're right. So he's knocking it out of the park as far as his own objective.